For crying out loud. Alright, let me share this one now. I hope that doesn't happen again. I gotta get through these. Oh, never mind. He beat me to it. He's beat me to it. Oh, my goodness. Okay, so we lost power. One could say accurately that I just went through a hard time, so I'm going to give myself a 10 out of 10 for relevancy. Speaking of which, let's get back to the submission. So we gave a 10 for impact, a 10 for creativity. As far as construction goes, I mean, honestly, this area is small enough that it doesn't really matter. This is the only thing that bugs me. Do I give a 9 and... Okay. So that stupid piece of tree is going to give me a... It's going to give a 9 in at least construction or composition. Maybe both. I don't know both. This is a knock it out of the park submission is right. Who said that? Somebody said that. Do I have a DM? Oh. Okay, yeah. You know, yeah, tree is right. The plant. No, you know what? The construction is outstanding. The construction is absolutely outstanding. So, screw it. I'll just give it 10 for construction. I gotta give a 9 for composition, because that's a weird thing that's in the way. But other than that, everything else is absolutely gorgeous. What is your question, Patrick? It's a very shiny ore car for sinking. What are you doing in my swamp? Jesus Christ. As far as content goes, this stuff is all drop dead gorgeous. And even those tanks are really, really old. Like, these are old objects. You know, maybe I'll give it a 9 just because this one's sort of and the way the light is playing on it. And this is really shiny. Like, I know there are more beat up ones than this. I'm certain there are. You could even pick one of the wrong gauge. It's not like anyone's going to be able to tell. But you don't really have a choice with these guys. There aren't that many rusted Hulk engine, you know, assets. But this thing sticks out like a sore thumb. Yeah, that's a 9. This is so good, though. This is so good. As for story, the only thing I'm waffling on is the use of 2 little engines. Again, if the screenshot was named 2 little engines, it would have you know the little explosive charge in a nuclear bomb that goes off to send the thing down into the core of the bomb to blow the whole thing up. Submission title, 2 little engines, is that little explosive. But, other than that, yeah, it's a 9. It's a 9. You know, and the playing with the maybe they're right, maybe they're wrong. It's interesting, but I feel like with a little bit of a difference in word choice, it could have had a much stronger impact there, or a little bit of a change in tone, I guess. You know, maybe they'll never know. You know, you get what I'm saying. You know what I'm playing at here. There's no whatever. Where's Bob Ross? No, not that. Ian, not totally what I mean, but whatever. Don't look up like anatomy of a nuclear bomb. You'll end up on a list. World. Now this is cool. there is almost nothing I have to do to suspend my disbelief here, except for the ore car. Which, again, can be written off as a way they brought coal in for the engines. I mean, duh, right? I mean, it's just cool. Like, it's just... The only thing is like, oh, well, why wouldn't you put them inside? Or something like that. I love... Okay. No, and you know what? Screw this. I'll give this a 10. This is outstanding. I love this. There's nothing... There's no disbelief I really have to suspend for this. Things get flooded out, and then they sit there in the middle of the woods for years and years and years. I mean, we've seen it before with the certain 2 locomotives in Maine, which I definitely haven't mentioned before because this video started 6 minutes ago. Let's check the completeness. Oh, right. Is that a flat car in the foreground of the water tower? Yes, it looks like it. Oh, I didn't even look at this. My bad. I forgot to pull up the production notes. The last one didn't have them. This is actually a scene on a route that I've been building for the past couple of years. This is a route? I need to know more about this route. Why have I never seen it before, first of all? Second of all, is it a drivable route, or is it just a large plot of Everglades? The ore car overturned to the mud is from Cars and Car Shops, and the 2 little engines are from the DLS. They're called End of the Line. Yeah, I think one of them comes by default. End of the Line 04 I've used before. This is a secret route. Keeping secrets from me. Find your own Valentine, then. No, completeness. This is... Let me just check this. I have to give it a 9 because the screenshot is called The Calm After the Storm and not 2 Little Engines. Bonus points. I mean, do I give one for just the wow factor? Do I give one for End of the Line 04, which has almost become... It almost feels like an in-joke. Do I... Man, what do I do? Do I give one for Boost Tanic over here? I don't know. This is outstanding in so many ways. Do I just give a point because I really like it? Like, what do I give a bonus point for here? It's so good. It's so good, but it's you know, it's not trying to drag them out of me. I mean, maybe if there was Maple Beach Birch in the background. I think I recognize this tree. But, I mean, I'll definitely give one for End of the Line 04. So, let's look at that total. That's going to be a fat number. It's going to be like 88. 10 plus 10 plus 10 plus 9 plus 9 plus 9 plus 10 plus 10 plus 10 plus 1. Ah, quick maths. 88. Okay. Oh, whoops, let me move that down to the next page so that's not broken up. Alright, thank you, Weibold, for your submission. Okay. If that one wins... If that one doesn't win, that means one of these other submissions is about to blow me out of my chair. So, let's see. What is the next one? From bad to worse. Beautiful. Whose is this? Scran Dispatch. Uh-oh. We're all over the ground. Why did I know it was going to be Penn Central? I should have said something. Okay. Oh, this is Ian. Okay. This is Ian's thing. I suppose he's going to get a 10 out of 10 on relevancy. Alright, let me pull up the screenshot. Because I should have done that first. Alright, screenshot from bad to worse. Oh, it's this picture. Okay, yeah, he showed me this early on. He thought he was going to submit it, then he thought he was going to submit something else. This is awesome, and the one thing that I'm noticing now that I never noticed before is how this is just glued to the flat car. Although this one fell off. Oh, so, okay. I was going to say, it feels like these should have fallen off. Now, I haven't seen many trailer on flat car derailments, but, this, I was like, oh, it should have fallen. Clearly, people have seen more than I have. The one thing that gets me about this, though, is what caused this derailment. Were they backing up? Is there more train here that's already been removed? I like how there's stuff that is spilled out of the boxcar. I would have. There are boxcars with openable doors, the JR ones. You could have used that and swung the door open to make this, I guess more believable. I don't know. Also, this guy could be pointing like this. I don't know how he would have fallen out and ended up like that. But that's weird nitpicking. There's crud on the ground next to the boxcar. That's already like next level, right? And the sheer volume of invisible track and super elevating that it takes to get this mess. This is not a few cars on the ground. This is a disaster, and I love it. Also, when first looking at this, I thought this was a fence. And I was like, damn, that's like perched right up on the fence. But no, it's a retaining wall. These guys they've fallen off. They're on the ground. On the ground down here. But I'm disliking the fact that the impact of this was sort of taken away because I'd already seen it before. But at the same time, this is a cool shot. It's tough to make a good-looking train wreck photo in trains. If you really wanted to amp it up a notch, you could have added a fire over here. I don't know what's in this tank car, but there are fire assets. Of course, we've used them for the Iron Horsemen Chronicles. Also, are these merging together, or is it just a really wonky two-track main? I guess I'd assume those are merging together. The spacing between these double tracks is not great. Didn't notice that until now. But either way, this is a pretty screenshot. I like the way the grass is, although you could use some sparser grass in here. That would have helped you. And over here. I think I mentioned that to you previously. But either way, grass blinds are good. Penn Central. These are the ones that deserve to be on the ground. Yuck. Okay. So let's talk about this. Or let's do, well, we'll do impact first. This is called From Bad to Worse. The bad, of course, being Penn Central. The worst being a Penn Central derailment. Although it should have really been called From Bad to a Normal Day on Penn Central. Let's drop this guy in here. Whoop, and... No. Oh, for Christ's sake. There we go. Beautiful. Okay. I like this. I mean, it's got a lot of impact to it. It's well lit. It's not bland in any way. I mean, boo, no explosion. But yeah, I mean, I see no reason not to give this thing like an 8 for impact. That's an easy call. And of course the little things, and you can pick apart those little things all you want. You just saw me do it. But the fact that the little things are there for me to pick apart is huge when it comes to creativity and construction. Just the amount of detail and effort that definitely went into this. That's it's worth noting. Okay. But let's do a read. All right. Oh, and they're okay. Let me read this before I make any assumptions about it. Okay. Grand Dispatch, commence Grand Dispatch. Halt all traffic. We've gone on the ground and are spread all over the right-of-way. Repeat, we're all over the ground and spread across the right-of-way. This is unrealistic because there are about 3 too few F-bombs. Kidding. They spread it all around. On February 1st, 1968, Penn Central was created. This made a lot of people very angry and was widely regarded as a bad move. Not even 2 years later, it was the biggest financial failure in American history at the time. Bad track work, conflicting operations, in-house competition, anything that could go wrong did. Accurate. PC Train EV4 was the unfortunate victim for today, as a broken rail sent cars digging into the ballast and a few off the embankment. Certainly a mess afterwards. Grain spilling out of the hoppers. Wait a minute. I didn't even notice that. That's cool. Another little wreck detail. Outstanding. Grain spilling out of the hoppers, loads falling from the busted boxcar, even a trailer on its side. Dare I mention the leaking tanker? You should have put in a fire. You should have put in like an explosion or something. GP30 2233 and his crew is sent over to help clear the mess. None of them are surprised. This is the third derailment this week. The crew doesn't mind, but 2233 is tired of it all. After losing one of his good friends in a wreck a few years ago, he wonders if surviving the bankruptcy was even worth it. I like this. I like this. Partly because it's Penn Central on the ground, but I like this because the details that are put into the piece are reflected in the writing. Now, they don't necessarily need to be one for one. That's one of the critiques that I would have, maybe the only one off the top of my head that I would have, is that the naming of the details, it's good, but you could find a different way to describe them that's a little bit more, what's the word I'm looking for? Not amorphous, but less direct, you know? Let people notice the little details in the picture on their own, but allude to them, you know? That said, if it weren't for the direct calling out of the grain spill, I never would have noticed the grain spill. It looked like dirt. I looked at it and went, there's dirt underneath that hopper, which was one of the things that helped me figure out that this is an embankment, which was then pointed out in the piece, in case you're like me and you did miss that. But, I mean, what bad can I really say about this? I mean, these are a lot of simple models. You could pick up some nicer ones, but you make do with what you have. Now, let's also talk about the production notes real quick. Oh, and there's thoughts about the actual shot itself, which is nice. I wasn't going to submit the screenshot initially. I had another screenshot I was going to submit where I wrote out a story that honestly hit a little too close to home. But then I remembered that someone else was already doing something like the scenario I was planning, so for originality and for the fact that it would just be overlooked most likely, I decided to be generic and use hard times in a more literal sense. I modified another route to make this shot, cool country specifically. Content is from DLS, Cloaked Ghost, USLW, and JR. This is a pain to set up, and I don't really know if the payoff was worth it, but hey, I did it, so I guess that's all that matters. I think the payoff was worth it, because it is, like I said, tough to pull off a good, convincing wreck scene, and aside from the one question that hangs in my head of, these cars are scattered all over the place with nothing to push them into that orientation, so there's not another car, right here, which would imply a much longer train. It's a good-looking wreck scene. There's, the cars all over the place. The other thing I would have done, the other thing I would have considered anyway, is really messing with this rail or this rail. Just tear up the track a little bit, because if you've ever seen post-wreck track, it's not pretty. Even when it's a really minor wreck, it's not pretty. So, and I know that's tough to do in trains. Obviously, like, the whole wreck scene is tough to do in trains. So, it would be a lot of effort for a small piece of this puzzle. But, just like all the other effort that you put in, the results that are yielded and would be yielded are outstanding. But let's focus on the are yielded, because it's good. It's really... We haven't had another wreck scene like this, and I'm wondering if we're going to get another one. But I feel like we aren't, because it's so much effort to create this. And the fact that you went out of your way to create it, I think, is again, speaking to some serious dedication to get this screenshot out there. So, let's get this in here. Let's get this out here. Creativity. Now, my man likes Penn Central. He makes this screenshot. He pulls out all the stops. There's a leaking tank car, which we can't see, unfortunately. There's trailers, there's barrels. There's all these people milling around, which is a cut above, because sometimes people just forget people, you know? Or you do the moment right after so you don't have to worry about the wrecking crew and yada, 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 right? What is this guy doing back here? What is this guy doing over here? He's just... he's all pixelated. I don't know what he's doing. What is this guy doing? He's just got a hammer. Doesn't matter. I mean, the options that we have for people are pretty limited. Ooh, you know, and I keep thinking of things to add to this scene, which doesn't detract from the scene and the details in the scene. My mind just keeps coming up with how much more could you cram into this? Which, you know, off camera the rest of the train. Okay.
Cool.
Okay. I believe you that the rest of the train is off camera, because we all know how wrecks tend to work. What tends to happen is you apply the brakes in the front engine, and the second engine doesn't get it in time, and you pop cars. And if that doesn't happen, go make it happen. But for creativity, I mean, it's a wreck scene. It's not bizarre. You know, it's not crazy. It's a wreck scene. It's hard times. It's Penn Central. It's hard times. It's, you know, okay, hold on. Let me give that 10 because it deserves to go there. But just the detail absolutely makes this at least an 8. And, you know, am I being really generous today? Am I going to give this a 9 for creativity? When it's combined with the story, where this is set in a Horseman-like universe, yada yada yada, and there's people talking, and there's so much detail here, I don't feel like I can not give it a 9. What would push it to a 10 is like, messed up rails and, you know, smoke, maybe, although that sends the screenshot in a completely different direction. I know I keep suggesting fire, explosion, smoke, but it's good that you didn't, because this would suddenly go from a derailment to a disaster, and Penn Central's already in the picture, so we don't need to double up. The thing that you could have done is add some cones on the road, and a police car or something. You know, if the wreck train's already here, the authorities should also probably already be here, and they would have, you know, tried to make a way around these, you know, wrecked cars. That's my 2 cents as a traffic engineer. But construction, this is well done. Again, the grass is a little bit patchy. You could have filled in some empty spaces, but it's not about the grass now, is it? And if it weren't for the way this wreck is elaborate, I think I would be giving it an 8 because of those things. But I know how much effort went into putting these cars in these orientations. Composition. It's a good overview. If it was panned a little bit more to the right so we could see that other train, or the other train was pushed up a little bit, then it would be better. I like the way the shadows are being cast and stuff like that. You know, there's nothing really wrong about the composition here. Nothing that sticks out at me. Nothing that's in the way. I don't know. It's a well put together shot. The grass is a little bright, but that's not really your fault. That's trains being bright. And it's sort of the only thing. Like, I like the shadows, but I don't like the lighting. Now, content. This is where I've got some critiques. Like I said, there are better options out there for boxcars, for reefers. These guys, maybe not. The engine is really nice, and it sort of stands out when paired with everything else. everything else is relatively low poly, but the engine isn't. And if I'm not sure if everything was, it would make the difference. Like everything would seem more uniform. But I look at the engine and I go, oh, huh, okay. And now, I know that there are better things out there, but if you didn't and you looked at this, you'd still see the same picture. You'd still see this wreck scene with, with interesting stuff going on. And I feel like as an average person looking at this, you go, oh wow, look at that train wreck, look at all those people. Oh, look at the stuff, look at that, look at this. You've got plenty of stuff to pick out. But when it comes to content, yeah, I feel like you could have picked from a higher branch there. But that doesn't make it a bad shot. Like I said, ooh, my ear's ringing. Now, story. I like the story. I do really like the story, and there's again, I already gave my critiques of it. There's really not much I can pick out about this. If there's anything I would have said, it's just drop the, dare I mention, the leaking tanker. It's a little bit different tonally, and like I said, it takes things in a different direction because it sort of creates an additional danger that isn't really addressed anywhere else. It takes you from going, wow, look at this wreck scene and all the stuff that happened, to, oh god, is something worse going to happen? But other than that, starting with the quote, the background, the broader background and the tighter background, the description, and then that character moment, which I didn't expect out of this. It's really, really good. So, I'm feeling generous. Toss it a 9. World. 10 Central. I don't want to sound like a broken record. I'm going to bring up the train again. I'm going to bring up the road situation. I'm going to bring up the way these tracks aren't parallel at all, which I can just as easily blame that as the route, but if you're putting this together, you want to adjust those spline points and put them in the right location. But the wrecking crane showing up, this boxcar in the middle of nowhere is still making me feel weird things. But I don't know. We were showing the rest of the train, but there was only... Yeah. What I would have done is just push the first car of the rest of the train up so it's right here. Just right resting against this hopper. Because that way there's more train there. You don't need to see, 10 cars, 20 cars. You don't even need to see a half a car. You just need to know that there's more there. Because right now this looks like the end of the train, and I'm going, how did this happen? Right? You just need that cue. You don't need the whole orchestra. You just need the cue. But as far as world goes, there's nothing wrong with an 8 here. There's nothing wrong here that would knock it down any further. That is the only thing that I feel like people could look at and say, what's going on here? The no cones on the road? Who cares? Maybe it's just a back road nobody cares about, People will be driving around it. They'll figure it out. Completeness, let's check on the submission. From bad to worst, Conrail fan. That's in, that's there. Done. 10. Bonus points. I see a Rio Grande hopper. I want to give him that a bonus point. And of course, for all the details, that deserves one too. And this is a weird one. But making the scene three-dimensional. And what I mean by that is, a lot of the time this stuff kind of happens, and you get a shot of it happening on like a empty plane, or even then if the railroad's in a cut or on an embankment, or on a relatively flat surface, you see cars strewn all over the place. But here you have this one going down onto the road. And that, I think, is something, and this trolley that's fallen onto the road. And that, paying attention to the three-dimensionality of the scene, paying attention to gravity, I feel like is something that gets missed in wreck scenes sometimes. And that does it. And I keep looking at it and thinking about it and saying, hey, that's a good thing right there. Also, having cars on their side or whatever. I know this wasn't possible once upon a time, but again, the effort, it can't be understated. 8 plus 9 plus 9 plus 8 plus 8 plus 9 plus 8 plus 10 plus 10 plus 3. That's an 82. It's a really good score. So, penultimate submission. Let's take a look. What's next? Thank you, Ian, for your submission, of course. Boop. I want to delete this response. And now, the true darkest days. Oh, it's not just the darkest, it's the true darkest. I can't wait to see what this is, actually. By... Oh, it's east. Oh, boy. Let's see what my son has for me. The true darkest days. Oh, crap. Okay, we talked about stretching the definition of hard time. I think we're there. I think we've stretched that as far as it's going to get, and I really want to know what the story is here, because this just blew my mind. Is that a... Okay, that's a Stug. And there's a German truck in the background. Okay, those are Shermans out there. There's this guy in the bushes. The gun, it's pointing the wrong way, dude. The tanks are over there. The true darkest days. I mean, I guess it wouldn't be wrong to say that by the time you're fighting tanks, by the time you are Germany fighting a bunch of Shermans in an area like this, because this is not North Africa, and this is almost certainly not Italy either. Yeah, dark days indeed. If you just happen to be a normal German citizen trying to deal with this. Okay, we have definitely stretched that definition. I love this. Among Us. Okay, sorry, I got something in my eye. Okay. Let's drop this in here and talk about it. No, bring it down. Down there. There we go. Right there. One of the few remaining German tank destroyers guards an outpost protecting a power plant outside of Hamburg. Let me paste it in here. This was colorized in 20... What? Heinrich Horst, a German veteran of the war, was identified as the photographer and the sole survivor of the skirmish. We visited him to interview him about the image. I remember it being a cool, crisp morning as a convoy of tanks approached our position. We had destroyed 3 of the tanks before they were able to return fire, disabling the tank next to me. A few seconds later, a second shot hit the tank. Then I saw a stream of fire coming from the tank. I ran to a nearby ditch and then heard an explosion. The next thing I remember was waking up in a POW camp. Somehow, my camera was undamaged and still attached to me. The people were extremely nice to me, but I could not understand why. I later found out that they were Canadians, as I was freed from the POW camp due to overpopulation. I was deemed not a threat, as I had only been a photographer. Okay. The image is dated April 17, 1945, one day before the official siege of Hamburg began, which should be began. The photo was colorized in 20,121 by an online user known as Israel11. It's good to know that the name Israel11 perseveres for the next 18,000 years. I'm glad that happened. But this is... The box is stretched, okay? And there's one thing that I have to say. So, Impact, almost for the bizarro factor, I want to give this a 10. It's too much camo, though. It doesn't pop enough. I sat here going, is that a tank? You know, for a little bit, I just saw the people with guns. So, honestly, as much as I want to give it a 10 just on that, and as much as I feel like it maybe deserves less than that because it's not a very, it's not an image that pops very much colorfully. It's camouflage. I can't not just be like, what? What is this? Sorry, Harry came out for a second there. So creativity. How do I not give this a 10? He's made a war scene in the Hard Times Trains route build competition. And it's another meta photograph. Like, the last one was a little bit meta. Ian wrote an idea as to why the camera would be up there, but this is like a talking to the photographer meta moment. I don't. The thing is dropped, guys. It's exploding. Yeah, screw it. I'll give it a 10. What the hell? This is ridiculous. There's a category that I don't like here. We'll get to it, but there's one thing where I go, I don't know about that. Oops, Tabo Hunter. Yes, I shall live forever. The tank is camo. I didn't see it. Me, that's the point. Yeah, I know that. I'm just saying from the point of view of the... Oh my god. I can't get over this picture. From the point of view of me, the human, looking at this screenshot, what did I say? A virtual photograph. So construction, right? These crates are kind of sunken into the ground. That's the only thing that gets me right away. You get the barbed wire, you got the sandbags, the tank things. There are the tanks down there. You've got lots of background. I like that. You've got 1, 2, 3 layers of background, maybe 4, depending on how you count it. The early morning mist is solid, but that's more of a composition thing. Yeah, what do? I want to give this like a 9 for composition. Or for construction. I mean, what else do you have here? What more do you add to this? Maybe this grass would be cleared a little bit more behind here, but other than that, I guess the late war German army was really short on lawnmowers, so they just couldn't get rid of this. Somebody hooked them up with Manscaped. I'm gonna give a 9 on construction. It's really solid. I love this to death. This would be the weirdest one to see in the rotation of my desktop backgrounds. Composition. Again, early morning mist, solid. Placement of everything, solid. Except for, well, I mean, there's nothing wrong with this crate. I just noticed it half on the screen. It implies that there's more crates that way. Yeah, I would expect there to be a little bit of dirt over here. Or flattened grass or something. This is... Unless this thing has been parked here for a while, which, may have been. They've been waiting for these tanks. They heard the communique that the Americans that the Allies had invaded in Normandy, and they said, well, damn, we gotta defend Hamburg. They'll be here any day now. I hear they have the fastest locomotive in the world. And by that I mean the Americans. Too bad Penn Central happened, huh? What is going on over here? What is stuck to the window of this? Or is that just like a weird... Oh, you can see through the back of the truck cab into the... Okay. I mean... Maybe if the tanks were a little bit bigger. But... Maybe I'm nitpicking too much now. I don't know. Screw it, I'll give it a... I don't know. I'll give it a 10, why not? Content. Are there not nicer crates? Other than that, this stuff is ridiculous. I didn't know we had these assets for trains. The trees are nice, the grass is nice. I know this patio pattern. Like how they've got the gun here, even though it's just, you might nick that, but that's fine. Don't worry. After you shoot it a couple times, it'll ablate away a nice hole. Alice is losing a real life screenshot. I feel like you can... Pack 40 on left. The Pack 40 was faulty. Aww. Unfortunate. They ran out of Pack 40s. They were out of stock at IKEA, I guess. Yeah. I'll give it a 10 barring the crates. Barring the crates. Story. Okay, so this is a little weirdly written, but I can understand if it's translated from an old German guy. You know? Began. Power plant, I'm fine with leaving one word. I don't care what Google says. It is about to open fire on an unsuspecting convoy of Sherman tanks. Visit him to interview him about the image. I'm just checking it again. Later found out that they were Canadians. Does that automatically make them nice? Are we carrying on that stereotype in this guy's fake prisoner of war story? Whatever. Here, have a 9. World. I don't know. I don't think I can believe anything like this actually happened. Germany is a very peaceful nation. They've only ever been in 2 wars, so... but... World. I know it's still weird about the Canadian... This. Unless this is a real story, which, if it is, stop me now. Oh, wait, let me check on this. Remember when I said I expect them all to have trains? I guess I'm dumb. It's downloaded from a French site. Ian said they're not need to be to train it, so I took advantage of this extremely creative idea. There is a sniper team duo mixed in with the bushes. Yeah, okay, so I knew it. I knew there was somebody over here. The convoy is made up of Sherman tanks. Okay. So it just means, I don't think he would still have his camera. Maybe I would have written that they gave it back to him. But also, what's this truck doing here? Get that out of here. But I don't know. That's fair. They did not want to leave Canada. Well, you know. Alright, that's... yeah. Well, I'm going to pretend I didn't see that. But... oh, God. Do I give it an 8 or a 9? I'll just give it a 9. Whatever. Relevancy. Okay. Now, this is an extremely interesting box stretch of this. But I'm looking at this, right? And I don't see hard time. Not knowing the context, which of course there is context, and context does matter, but not knowing the context, these guys up here, the protagonists of our photograph, are about to have a really good time, because they just got a sick ambush on these tanks, these unsuspecting Shermans, right? So, but understanding, of course, that this photographer is the only survivor, and that, of course, that these are like some of the last holdouts towards the end of the European theater of war, you know, it's understandable, yes, they're having a hard time. But I think this stretches it a little bit much, you know? If it was the tanks are closing in as opposed to an ambush, I could see it being a much harder time. But the photograph talks about a hard time, and the photograph talks about an era in which these people were having a hard time. But as far as high points go of that very difficult time, I feel like this is it. And that's what gets me here. Again, if they were defending a position, which, I mean, they're technically defending the power plant in Hamburg, etc. But if they were coming under fire, not that I know how you would necessarily do that in trains, then I would understand it's more of a hard time. But right now, it's not a hard time. I'm looking at this, and like I said, these guys are about to have a really good time. In fact, they take out 3 before they even get fired upon. You know? So, as much as I love this picture and as much as I love the story, I'm going to have to toss you a 7 on the relevancy front. And that's a tough call for me. I'm not sure if I wanted to give you a 7 or an 8, but I gave you a 9 instead of an 8 in the world. I just don't know. And it's so technical, you know? But, and I was all in from the beginning, and I thought about this like, well. Hold on a minute. Because in War Thunder, even if you die at the end of the match, if you still racked up a couple kills, you probably had a good time. Just saying. This is the part where East comes in and says he doesn't know anything about dying in War Thunder because he always finishes first with 15 kills. Completeness. Checking the submission. Sus. That's there. The True Darkest Days. I also don't really see how the title fits. I mean, I see how it fits, but I don't really see how it fits. You know? I feel like it's a little bit loose. Which, I don't know how to score that. I've never really bothered with the title so much as I have this episode. But, oh well, the show's going to evolve. Completeness. That's the time. Bonus. Okay, for just blowing me away, there's a point. And assets that I did not know we had, and stretching this thing out, and, you know, whatever. It's... I don't know what else to say here. Mind equals boggles. I know, but I'm not saying this doesn't fall. I'm reading Ian's chat here. I'm saying, in my judgment of this, these people, right now, in this moment, are not having a hard time. Like, I know it was fine to expand the concept of hard time to a wider spectrum of things than just trains, right? And a wider spectrum than something like just a railroading catastrophe, a bridge has gone out, the train is delayed or derailed. And I agree that absolutely this is an expansion of that theme to more than just trains, more than just a simple hard time. But in this moment, they are going to have a hard time, and they've probably been having a hard time. But this is the high point of their day, right now. This second, when they're about to fire. You know? If it was 2 minutes later, when they've destroyed 3 and they're under fire, then maybe. Then yeah, absolutely. If there was something that they didn't know about, you know, they're about to be bombed or something, then yeah, I can see it a little bit more. But I'm not saying it's not a hard time because it's outside the scope of the prompt. I'm saying it's not a hard time because it's not a hard time. But this come up as for East saying I was salty and cutting out my cat gif. But you know what? Here, I'll up that by 1 then, because I was on the fence about it. Trains with smoke and fire models exist. Well, again, I'm not saying that this specific picture could have been done in that way. I'm saying that this picture isn't a hard time. I'm not saying that it could have been adjusted in the way that I'm describing. I'm just saying in the timeline of events that this picture represents. This is the high point. This isn't the low point. This isn't the hard time. You know? The guy isn't in the prisoner of war camp. These guys aren't under fire yet. They don't even know, the enemies don't even know that they're there. So, I don't know, it just seems outside the scope. Or not outside the scope. It just seems like not a hard time. But let's see. Because I'm still blown away by the picture in what it is. Plus 8, plus 10, plus 2. 86. If I had given you a 10 for relevancy, you would have tied with Wybold, which, I mean, it's kind of appropriate for how cool this shot is. But I see the argument, and I don't necessarily disagree, because I understand that late war Germany is like the textbook definition of having a hard time. War is hell. But we don't play war games to be, to be in hell. Can't get more of a dark time than that. No, but you can get light spots in that dark time. You can be on the winning side, if only for a moment. Everyone wants to win. Oh, hey, Hemlock's here. Okay. Final shot. From out of the blue. I wonder whose this could be, and I wonder what we're going to see in it. ELO is already playing in my head. Enough assets for military trains. Yes, Mr. Empire Builder. Hello, Ryan. Hello, hello. Good to see that you made an appearance in our competition. But by the way, all debate aside, Eastrail, excellent job. Thank you for your submission. I can delete these, by the way. Get out of here. Okay. I'm looking at this, and aside from the rain, I'm failing to see how it's a hard time. I suppose it'll be explained. And I've seen this before, but if I hadn't seen it before, I would probably be remarking as to how cool it was. Did I get a bunch of DMs? Where did these DMs come from? Let me check my DMs real quick. I think I know what they're all saying. Oops. Why did I missed one. Oh. So, it's a cool shot, and I like the lighting. I gotta say that much. So, okay, let's see. Strangely simple. Let's drop this guy in there. Let's check this one. Save for a rainy day for Mr. Blue Sky to come out, I suppose. Nobody expected it to. Amtrak Train 41, the westbound Three Rivers, is waiting patiently for an expected manifest to rumble by, and conditions could not be uglier. The night sky, presumably safe, for a couple of patches here and there, has been wiped clean by gruesome clouds and shivering rain. A gallant F40 PH keeps a watchful vigil, while the crew listens into the sounds of railroading on the radio. They're in a hard spot now, but once they get going, hopefully they'll outrun the rain. Just where is the manifest? Unbeknownst to the brave crew of Train 41, the manifest was approaching fast. The SD-42, in all of its colorful splendor, cut through the cold rain and icy wind at a terrific pace, making use of an all-clear given by dispatch. They passed the Three Rivers, raising morale among the crew. Finally, a hard rain may fall, but blue skies and clear trackage is the next stop for the Three Rivers. I guess it could give meaning to that one verse. Hey there, Mr. Blue. We're so pleased to be with you. Look around, see what you do. Okay, so this is a pretty screenshot. And of course the ELO unit is very nice, very cool. F40PH deserves a before I forget about that. Another one where, so this is more of the not so stretchy to the prompt, which I like. It's not as insanely out there as the other ones we've had. Not that that's better or worse, but a train on a rainy day. You know? Simple. Simple times. Hard times don't have to be the worst has occurred, everyone has died, explosions, fire, death, brimstone, right? And that may seem incongruous coming from the last one, but let's think about the spectrum on which these events lie. Now, this is a brightening up sort of moment. It is brightening up of a hard time, though. But on the spectrum of these events, for the guys waiting for those tanks to come by, their day was probably pretty mediocre. They managed the ambush, and then they got killed. Again, high point of their day. These guys are stuck in the bad weather. They're probably getting unhappier and unhappier as the time ticks by, and I bet the passengers are too. And then whoop, the ELO unit comes into frame, and the music starts playing, and you don't know where it's coming from. So, and then Star-Lord shows up. But no, in actuality, it is the brightening of a dark moment, not the bright before a dark moment. Like, how do I phrase this? The brightening is intrinsically related to the dark moment, etc., etc. This is presumably as bad as it's going to get for them. And the paragraph alludes to that as well, which is a nice way to look at this. A nice way to see the situation where it's a hard time, but that doesn't mean there can't be hope. You know? That doesn't mean there can't be a light in the dark. It's an interesting take on the theme. Yeah. I feel like it's one of the more straightforward takes on the theme, you know? I feel like it's one of the less hard times. And for that, I'm kind of grateful. This breaks up the other submissions just as much as the World War II one did, by presenting us with something that is totally different. And it's different just by virtue of being different from the other submissions. We had a space one, we had abandoned railways, we had World War II, we had, what's the one I'm missing? I skipped one. I'm sorry about this. Which one did I skip? We had, oh yeah, Ian's, of course, the person who created this whole thing. We had the wreck, which is, I was saving for last in my thought process because it is the most similar to what one might expect out of a competition like this, and then we reach this one. So, let's talk about the impact real quick. I like the lighting here, and you can tell there's something off screen giving this light, which means that there was some lighting work put into this, which is a good thing. We've talked about that before, already, just recently. But as far as impact goes, I mean, I'm hesitant to give it a 6, but it feels both too high and too low, because I didn't see this and go, wow, or whoa, or, start losing it. But I do look at this and it pops, The Mr. Blue Sky pops, and every time I look at this, especially knowing Mr. Blue Sky, yada yada yada, it's the most punchy song in the world, practically. You just see that and you go, oh. You can look at this photo, and again, when I looked at it immediately, I didn't quite understand the context, but I was looking for something bigger. I think if this had been first in the show, I would have sat here and go, oh, that's really nice. Just right off the bat. You can see the light in the darkness. It's raining, it's dark. But you can see the light in the darkness right there. And for that, maybe I'm being too kind. Again, I'll give it a 7. But that 7 is taking a lot of factors into consideration. Now, as for creativity goes, I know he made this. He made that reskin. And that's a cool point. That's a bonus point. I need to throw that in. Uh, as far as creativity goes, it's very different than all of the other pieces. It's not so much stretching the box out, but it is different. And I mean, I'm comfortable giving this another 7, and that almost feels low. A lot of in comparison to some of the other screenshots that have come in this competition, it seems low, but I do like it, and I like the way the story meshes in, and and the way it's framed, which I will talk about in a little bit. But I have no qualms with giving this a 7. Let's get that out of the way, and let's talk about construction, which the only thing that gets me here is you don't have a background. Which, does it say where we are? No, it doesn't say where we are. And if we were in, prairie land, farmland, that I could understand. It doesn't say. I'm looking for something in the background. I'm looking for the silhouettes of trees, or something like that. Now, if we look here, you can see there is something back there. I just can't tell what. It looks like a couple of small farm buildings. And you can see the lines there, power lines or telegraph wires or whatever they may be, telephone lines. But I just ripped a hair out of my head by accident, caught my finger. I'm thinning, I'm balding already. All that hair, it just fell off from last time. But I mean, that I think is the one thing this is missing. I would have put a line of trees in the background, maybe. But it gives a different feel to it being wide open. It's almost like you're getting drenched. Because there's no cover, there's no shade, there's no protection. You're getting drenched. But the other thing that's missing is a different color on the ground here. And I know you can't do much with these grass splines when you're so close into them. There's almost no way to make them look good. There are things in modern versions of trains that'll let you get around that, but I don't know what this was made in, so I can't really score against it. But I'm not discontented with continuing to give this thing straight 7s for its construction. Now, as for composition, the lighting is solid. You've got it shining right on the ELO engine, right where you need that spot of sunshine. You've got the dark sky, a little bit of rain. I mean, things are pretty well placed. I don't think you can make this better. I'm just thinking in my head. I'm sorry, Ian. I'm thinking in my head about moving this a little bit this way or a little bit this way, moving this a little bit this way or a little bit this way. It's like, no, this is about what I would expect out of this, or what I would want to see, how I would frame this. It's gorgeously framed. So I should be generous. I'll give this a 10 on composition. You work with what you've got, and it worked really well. Maybe I would remove these wires. Content. That's a really pretty unit he made himself. This is about the nicest F40 out there. That's all I really have to say. This track is JR. It's pretty nice. You can't really do much worse than this, or much better than this, depending on which version of trains you have. These buildings in the back, they seem low poly, but who's gonna really check them other than me? I mean, come on. What's going on with this? What is this? Is something hanging off the... Oh, sorry, it's the plow. Okay, I wasn't looking at it right. But, what do I give? I mean, I've got no misgivings about the content. If you can't get better grass than this, you can't get better grass than this. If you are on Trains 19, Ryan, if you're watching this, try to use the other kinds of grass. the ground scatter grass or the PBR textures and stuff like this. Because when you're zoomed in like this, it really doesn't do anybody any favors. Again, it's not your fault, it's a limitation of the game and what assets we have in the game. But it doesn't help very much. Either way, not knowing the version of trains, I can't say it could be better, so I'm obliged to give it a 10. Story. A couple of little things. It's instead of, it is instead of it's. A little heavy-handed at times, raising morale among the crew finally. I mean, it's a nice little bit. Oh yeah, say instead of save. Gruesome clouds. You never see that. And I'm not knocking it. Gruesome clouds. Missions could not be uglier. And I'd give him an 8 on the story. Maybe that's being generous. Maybe I've been a lot generous tonight. World. Whose unit is the ELO unit? Where is it? Where did this come from? I'm liking the idea that you could throw this unit out there as sort of like a guardian angel among locomotives. The ELO unit, the Mr. Blue Sky unit, where, if you get stopped at a signal for the Blue Sky unit, it's like the opposite of a black cat crossing your path. I don't know. What else can you say, really? But as far as world goes, I've got nothing to knock here. Just what's supposed to be in the background. That's it. And even then, if we're in the middle of nowhere, Three Rivers has plenty of middle of nowhere. That's for sure. So, and relevancy. Do I give it a 9 because it almost feels like it's not hard enough? I feel like I've set a precedent with the last one about picking that apart, but there was just something about a successful ambush, I do see that message. But I already went on about how much I like this take on it. It's just such a simple take. There's nothing that says a take has to be super special, and it's not supposed to be that hard to get a 10 on relevancy. Again, I harped on about the last one just because something seemed incongruous about it, and I feel like I've given an explanation 12 times on that, but this is... You've got to get the story, which I feel like that's what it should be. So I am going to give a 9 on this, but it's because the story is mandatory to understand why this is a hard time. Why this moment is a hard time. But as far as completeness goes, let me check that. So that's in. This is correct. Placing the locomotive behind the camera and turning the headlight. Yeah, that's how you do it. That's, it's not that hard. Okay. Completeness, that's a 10. So, yeah, I mean, also, I'm gonna throw a bonus point out for you for going with the Three Rivers. It's a train that I feel like gets forgotten too much from Amtrak history. So I'll give a bonus point for the Three Rivers. The Broadway downgraded to Windows 8. It's a good answer. That's a good comparison. All right, 7 plus 7 plus 7 plus 10 plus 10 plus 8 plus 10 plus 9 plus 10 plus 3. That's 81. So I think that, what did that come in 5th? Or, yeah. No, it didn't come in 5th. Man, compared to the rest of them, this one got the short stick. But, I talked about the different takes we've had on this so far, or during the course of this, and honestly, I'm glad we got so many different takes on it. It's really cool, and I like this broad spectrum idea that we got to play with. So I'd like to once again thank Ian for his suggestion and his submission. I'd like to thank Eric for his submission, Weibold for his submission. There's Eric's submission. Ease for his submission. We can just take that in again for a second. And Ryan for his submission. Thank you all very much. And I'll see you guys after the next season of Local Royale, which I'm going to go make the poll to start as soon as we hang the cape up here. So, oh, look, it's me. 100 times over. Can we watch ourselves? I'd like to thank everyone, once again, for listening and watching this again later, probably. And I'll see you guys in the next video. This is the Admiral.